The hunt begins in the farthest reaches of the Andromeda spiral, where ancient stars cast their dying light across forgotten worlds. The Vorthok Empire had ruled for over 10,000 years. Their massive ships, black as the void itself, carried the terror of their name to every corner of known space. The Vorthok were tall, scaled beings with 4 arms and eyes that glowed like molten copper. They had built their civilization on a simple principle: the strong devour the weak, for millennia. They had practiced what they called the blood games. Every few years, their scouts would find a new species, study them, and select the most promising specimens for their twisted entertainment. The chosen beings would be transported to Nexus Prime, a desert world transformed into the ultimate hunting ground. There, the greatest Vorthok warriors would hunt them for sport, while billions across the Empire watched and cheered. The games served multiple purposes. They entertained the masses, trained elite warriors, and sent a clear message to any species that might consider challenging Vorthok supremacy. Over the centuries, they had hunted the swift Zalari, the cunning Morphids, and the mighty Gorvani. All had fallen. All had provided excellent sport. High Chancellor Crix stood in his observation chamber aboard the flagship Dominator, watching the latest batch of surveillance footage. His forearms moved in complex patterns as he reviewed the data, a habit that showed his deep concentration. The images showed a blue-green world in a remote arm of the galaxy, populated by bipedal creatures that called themselves humans. They appear promising, hissed Commander Zara, his lead hunter. She was smaller than most Vorthok, but twice as deadly, with scars covering her scales from countless hunts. They fight constantly among themselves. Their technology is primitive. They show strong emotional responses to pain and fear. Crix's eyes brightened with interest. How do they compare to previous prey? They're physically weaker than the Gorvani, but more numerous. Less intelligent than the Morphids, but more aggressive. They have no unified government, no space fleet, no idea they're being watched. Zara's mandibles clicked with amusement. They're perfect. The selection process began immediately. Vorthok scouts identified 12 humans from different regions of Earth, each chosen for specific traits. There was Captain Sarah Chen, a military strategist from the Pacific Defense Force; Dr. Marcus Webb, a physicist working on experimental energy systems; Elena Buscus, a survival instructor from the Amazon rainforest. Each human represented a different aspect of their species' capabilities. They were taken during the night, snatched from their beds by invisible ships using advanced sleep engines. The technology was so far beyond human understanding that they never knew what hit them. One moment they were sleeping peacefully. The next they were waking up in metal cages aboard a ship traveling faster than light. Sarah Chen was the first to wake. Years of military training had taught her to assess situations quickly, but nothing had prepared her for this. The walls around her seemed to pulse with organic life, and the air hummed with an energy that made her skin crawl. Through the transparent barriers of her cage, she could see others, humans like her, all looking confused and terrified. "Where are we?" whispered a man in the cage next to her. Dr. Webb, though she didn't know his name yet, his scientific mind was already working, trying to understand this. "I don't know," Sarah replied, her voice steady despite the fear clawing at her chest. "But we're not on Earth anymore." The ship's journey took 3 days. During that time, the humans began to communicate, to share their skills and knowledge. Sarah's military experience helped organize them. Elena's survival training gave them hope. Marcus's scientific mind began to understand the technology around them. even if he couldn't explain it. They learned they were being watched. Cameras tracked their every movement, and sometimes they could hear sounds that might have been laughter coming from hidden speakers. The realization that they were entertainment for something else filled them with a cold rage that burned deeper than their fear. Nexus Prime appeared like a jewel of death in the viewports. The desert world was covered in rocky canyons, ancient ruins, and scattered oases. Artificial structures dotted the landscape, clearly built for observation and broadcasting. This was a world designed for one purpose: to watch things die. The humans were transported to the surface in individual drop pods, scattered across 100 square kilometers of hostile terrain. As Sarah's pod cracked open, she felt the planets. Heat hit her like a physical blow. The air was thin but breathable, and the gravity was slightly lighter than Earth's. She could work with this. Her military training kicked in immediately. Find cover, assess the situation, locate resources, establish contact with allies. She found shelter in a rocky outcrop and began scanning the horizon. In the distance, she could see the gleam of metal and glass. Observation posts. They were being watched. Meanwhile, Commander Zara and her hunting party prepared for the drop. 12 elite Vorthok warriors, each armed with advanced weapons and centuries of hunting experience. They had faced every kind of prey the galaxy had to offer, and none had ever escaped. Today would be no different. Remember, Zara addressed her team, we want this to last. The longer the hunt, the better the entertainment. Play with them. Let them think they have hope, then take it away. The hunters dropped onto Nexus Prime like angels of death, their black armor gleaming in the harsh sunlight. They moved with practiced efficiency, spreading out to begin the hunt. Their weapons could kill from kilometers away, but where was the fun in that? They preferred to get close, to see the fear in their prey's eyes. But something was wrong from the beginning. The humans weren't running in panic as expected. They weren't crying or begging for mercy. Instead, they were doing something the Vorthok had never seen before. They were organizing. Sarah had made contact with 3 other humans within the first hour. Using hand signals and whispered communications, they began to coordinate their movements. Elena's survival skills helped them find water and shelter. Marcus started studying the alien technology scattered around the hunting ground, remnants from previous games. These energy cells, Marcus whispered, examining a damaged piece of equipment. I think I can modify them, create weapons. Do it. Sarah ordered. We're not going to be anyone's entertainment. The first Vorthok hunter to encounter humans was a young warrior named Vek. He had been tracking Sarah's group for hours, savoring the anticipation. When he finally cornered them in a narrow canyon, he expected to see terror. Instead, he saw determination. Sarah stood at the front of the group, holding a makeshift spear. Behind her, Marcus worked frantically on something that glowed with alien energy. Elena had vanished into the rocks, but Det could sense her presence. Run, little prey, Det hissed in his own language, though he knew they couldn't understand. Make this interesting. Instead of running, Sarah charged. The attack was so unexpected that Det barely had time to raise his weapon. The human moved with trained precision, her spear finding gaps in his armor. She was faster than he expected, more skilled than any prey species he had encountered. Behind her, Marcus's device suddenly flared to life, sending a bolt of energy that burned through Dek's shield generator. Elena dropped from the rocks above, landing on Dek's back with a knife made from sharpened metal. The three humans worked together with deadly efficiency, and within minutes, the great hunter was dead. "Take his weapons," Sarah ordered, already thinking tactically. "We need to move. Others will come." Across the hunting ground, similar scenes were playing out. The humans weren't behaving like prey. They were adapting, learning, fighting back. They used the environment to their advantage, set traps, and coordinated their attacks. Most shocking of all, they were winning in the observation chamber. High Chancellor Crix watched the feeds with growing alarm. 3 of his hunters were dead, and the humans were now armed with Vorthok weapons. The prey had become predators, and the galaxy's most feared warriors were being outmaneuvered by a species they had dismissed as primitive. "This is impossible," Crix snarled, his 4 arms gesturing wildly. "They're supposed to be weak, frightened, easy to kill." Commander Zara's voice crackled through the communication system, tense and uncertain. "They're not like the others, High Chancellor. They learn fast, they work together, and they're not afraid to die fighting." On the surface, the humans had found an abandoned observation post and were working to convert it into a base of operations. Marcus had successfully interfaced with the alien computers, while Sarah planned their next moves. Alina had become their scout, moving through the terrain like a ghost. "I've accessed their communication network," Marcus reported, his fingers flying over the alien interface. "They're not just hunting us for sport. This is being broadcast across their entire empire." Sarah's eyes hardened. "Then let's give them a show they'll never forget." That night, the humans launched their first coordinated assault. They had spent hours studying the Vorthok patrol patterns, learning their weaknesses. The aliens were physically stronger and had better technology, but they were arrogant, predictable, and completely unprepared for prey that fought back. The attack began with Elena's traps. Hidden devices made from modified alien technology created explosions that scattered the hunting party. Sarah led a direct assault on their command post, while Marcus provided covering fire with captured weapons. The humans moved like a military unit, each supporting the others. By dawn, 6 more Vorthok hunters were dead, and the humans had captured their base of operations. Commander Zara found herself trapped in a canyon, surrounded by the very beings she had come to hunt. For the first time in her life, she felt true fear. "Your empire made a mistake," Sarah said, standing over the fallen hunter. "You chose the wrong species to hunt." Zara looked up at the human leader, seeing something in her eyes that chilled her to the bone. This wasn't just anger or desperation. This was the look of a natural predator, a being born to fight and survive and kill. For the first time, she understood what her prey really was. "What are you?" she whispered. Sarah's smile was cold as the void between stars. "We're human, and we're done being your entertainment." Asterisk, the tables turn word of the disaster on Nexus Prime spread through the Vorthok Empire like wildfire. For the first time in their history, the prey had not only survived, but had systematically hunted down and killed their hunters. The broadcasts that were meant to show Vorthok superiority instead revealed their vulnerability. Across the Empire, subject species began to whisper about the humans who had turned the tables on their masters. High Chancellor Crix paced his command chamber, his 4 arms moving in agitated patterns. The situation was spiraling out of control. 3 days had passed since the hunt began, and only 2 of his elite hunters remained alive. The humans had not only survived, but had taken control of the hunting ground, turning it into their own. "Fortress, send reinforcements," Crix ordered his aide. "Elite guard units, whatever it takes to end this embarrassment. But even as he spoke, he knew it was too late. The humans had done something unprecedented. They had sent a message. Dr. Marcus Webb had worked tirelessly to access the Vorthok communication network. Using his knowledge of physics and the alien technology he had studied, he had managed to broadcast a signal that reached far beyond Nexus Prime. The message was simple but devastating. This is Dr. Marcus Webb of Earth. We are 12 humans who were taken from our world and brought here to be hunted for sport. We want the galaxy to know that we are not prey. We are not entertainment. We are survivors, and we will not go quietly into the dark. To the Vorthok Empire, we say this: you have made a grave mistake. To any other species listening, know that humanity will not be intimidated or enslaved. We are coming home, and we are bringing justice with us. The message was picked up by monitoring stations across the galaxy. For many species, it was the first time they had heard of humans. For others, it was confirmation of rumors that had been spreading through the outer systems. A new species had emerged, one that refused to bow to the established order. On Earth, the message caused chaos. The discovery that 12 humans had been abducted by aliens sent shockwaves through every government. Within hours, the world's military forces were mobilizing. The recently completed deep space vessel Retribution, humanity's first, faster-than-light ship, was prepared for immediate departure. Admiral Rebecca Stone stood on the bridge of the Retribution, studying the star charts that would take them to Nexus Prime. She was a veteran of the Mars colonies, a woman who had spent her life pushing the boundaries of human exploration. Now she faced the greatest challenge of her career, bringing her people home from the other side of the galaxy. How long to reach their coordinates? She asked her navigation officer. 47 hours at maximum burn, Admiral. But we'll be going. In blind, we don't know what we're facing. Admiral Stone's jaw tightened. We know they took our people. That's enough. Back on Nexus Prime, the humans had transformed the hunting ground into something the Vorthok had never seen before. They had turned the observation posts into defensive positions, created weapons from salvaged technology, and established communication networks that allowed them to coordinate across the entire battlefield. What had begun as a hunt had become a war. Sarah Chen stood in the command center they had established, watching the tactical displays that showed Vorthok troop movements. The enemy was bringing in reinforcements, but that was expected. What mattered was that the humans had sent their message to the galaxy and were now in a position to defend themselves. They're landing more troops on the far side of the continent, Alina reported, her voice crackling through the communication system. She had become their eyes and ears, moving through the desert like a ghost to gather intelligence. How many? Sarah asked. At least 100, maybe more. They're not taking any chances this time? Marcus looked up from the alien computer system he had been modifying. I've been analyzing their military structure. They're used to overwhelming superiority. They've never faced an enemy that could adapt to their tactics. Then let's show them what adaptation really means, Sarah said. The final battle began at dawn. The Vorthok came in massive numbers, their black armor gleaming in the morning light. They moved in perfect formation, overwhelming force brought to bear against what they saw as a small band of survivors. But the humans were ready. The attack started with the traps Alina had placed throughout the approach routes. Modified alien explosives created chaos in the Vorthok ranks, disrupting their formations and sowing confusion. Sarah led a series of hit-and-run attacks, striking at the enemy's flanks and disappearing before they could respond. Marcus had converted the observation network into a weapon system, using the planet's own infrastructure against the invaders. Energy beams designed to record hunts were redirected to cut through Vorthok armor. Communication arrays became jamming devices that disrupted enemy coordination. But the humans' greatest weapon was something the Vorthok had never encountered: the willingness to sacrifice everything for their comrades. When Alina was surrounded by enemy forces, the other humans launched a desperate rescue mission. When Marcus was wounded defending the command center, Sarah personally carried him to safety under heavy fire. The Vorthok, despite their superior numbers and technology, found themselves outmaneuvered and outfought. They were used to hunting terrified prey, not battling determined warriors who refused to surrender. Their rigid tactics crumbled against human adaptability and creativity. High Chancellor Crix watched the battle from his command ship, his confidence turning to desperation. These humans were unlike anything the Vorthok had ever faced. They didn't just fight. They evolved, learning from every encounter and becoming more dangerous with each passing hour. "Sir," his aide reported, "we're receiving multiple alerts from our border sensors, unknown ships approaching at high speed." Crix's eyes widened. Impossible. No one would dare challenge the Vorthok Empire. But the impossible was happening. The retribution had arrived, and it was not alone. Admiral Stone had contacted every species that had suffered under Vorthok rule, and many had answered the call. The combined fleet that emerged from hyperspace was unlike anything the galaxy had seen in millennia. "This is Admiral Stone of the Earth vessel Retribution." Her voice broadcasts across all frequencies. "We have come for our people. Release them immediately or face the consequences." High Chancellor Crix felt the foundations of his empire beginning to crumble. The message from the humans had spread across the galaxy, inspiring other species to resist Vorthok rule. What had begun as a simple hunt had become a galactic revolution. On the surface of Nexus Prime, the humans received word of the fleet's arrival with quiet satisfaction. They had held their ground, sent their message, and now their home had come for them. But they had also done something more important. They had shown the galaxy that the Vorthok could be defeated. The final confrontation came when Sarah, Chen, and High Chancellor Crix met face to face in the ruins of the hunting ground. The leader, once the most feared being in the galaxy, now stood before a human who had proven that fear was just another weapon to be turned against one's enemies. "You have destroyed everything," Crix hissed, his four arms trembling with rage. "The order we built, the peace we maintained through strength." Sarah looked at the alien leader with contempt. "You call slavery peace. You call murder strength. You built your empire on the suffering of others, and now it's crumbling because you finally met a species that fights back. What are you people?" Crix demanded. "What makes you so different?" Sarah's answer was simple and devastating. "We're human. We don't accept defeat. We don't bow to tyrants. And we never, ever give up." The Vorthok Empire fell within a year. The species that had once ruled through fear found themselves scattered and broken. Their military defeated and their authority shattered. The humans, who had survived the hunt, became legends, their story told across the galaxy as an example of courage and determination. But the real impact was felt in the thousands of species that had lived under Vorthok rule. The message from Nexus Prime had shown them that resistance was possible, that even the mightiest empire could fall if challenged by those who refused to surrender. Earth emerged from the conflict as a new galactic power, not through conquest, but through the respect they had earned by standing up to tyranny. The Galactic Council, formed from the species that had joined the fight against the Vorthok, invited humanity to take a leading role in maintaining peace and justice among the stars. Admiral Stone stood on the observation deck of the Retribution, watching as the last Vorthok ships disappeared into hyperspace. The 12 humans who had been taken from Earth were finally going home, but they were returning as heroes who had changed the galaxy forever. "What happens now?" asked Dr. Webb, still recovering from his injuries but alive and free. Sarah Chen, now bearing the scars of battle but unbowed by her experiences, smiled as she looked out at the stars. "Now we make sure this never happens again. We explore the galaxy, we make friends with peaceful species, and we make it clear to anyone who would repeat the Vorthok's mistakes that humanity is not to be trifled with." The story of the humans who turned the tables on their hunters spread through the galaxy, becoming legend. Children of 100 different species would grow up hearing about the brave beings from Earth who refused to be prey, who fought back against impossible odds, and who proved that courage and determination could overcome any enemy. And in the depths of space, on worlds yet to be discovered, other predators who might have considered humanity an easy target heard the story and decided to look elsewhere for their prey. The galaxy had learned a new truth. Humans were not victims to be hunted, but protectors to be respected and allies to be treasured. The hunt was over. The real adventure was just beginning.